Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Long. I'm a member of the Sustainable Essex Committee, and I'd like to welcome you to our sixth Sustainable Essex Environmental Discussion Session. This is entitled Working Together, Creating Change, Cool Things You Can Do at Home to Slow Climate Change. This is our final session for the 2020 season. We've had great response with these so far. It's been our pleasure to host these sessions, and we're already working on planning for our 2021 season. So stay tuned. You'll get more information about that as we continue through that planning process. I want to just take a quick pause here. Janice or Pam, how's the volume level? Can you hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Okay,
Yep,
good.
very good.
And the visual looks good?
Yep.
Very good.
Okay, great. All right. Well, see if I can change the slide here. So joining me today are two experts on the impacts of municipal solid waste on our environment and our local communities. They're strong activists in their own right. Janice Ellemeyer is the Community Resource Planner for the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments. And Pam Roach is a consultant with the South Central Region Council of Governments and president of the Connecticut Recyclers Coalition. So it's my pleasure to have two good friends and two experts joining us today to lend some great ideas so how we can manage our what we consume, how we can dispose of it in an effective way to reduce the impacts on climate change. Before we begin, I want to quickly cover just a couple of logistical items. Everyone will be muted to reduce any background noise throughout the presentation. We're going to have about 12, 15 or so additional guests join us, so this will help reduce background noise and make it easier to hear the presentation. We will address all questions after the completion of the presentation. We're going to do that via chat. And you can access the chat box by clicking on the chat icon, which is at the very bottom of your Zoom window on your computer. And I want to stress that it's not just questions. Your comments, as well as your questions, are encouraged and welcome, especially about how individual households or how you feel your community can address the challenges of the increasing amounts of solid waste that we're really experiencing throughout the state. And then after today's session, I'll be sending you a resources packet that's going to provide links to videos, resources, organizations that can help you more effectively manage the solid waste in your household, provide you with some directions about how you might get your community more involved. We'll also send you a copy of this presentation, and we are recording this session so that you'll be able to review it at any time. And the link to that recorded session will be also in that resources packet that I'll share with you. So we've got a lot to talk about over the next 45 minutes, and so I want to begin. And what we're going to be focused on is what we call the materials use pyramid. And as you can see here, it begins with reduce, and the very bottom of the pyramid is really the last consideration, and that is dispose. So what of this pyramid we're going to focus on is first some thoughts about reducing our consumption. Then Janice will talk about thoughts about and resources available for how we can reuse and repair what we've consumed. And then Pam will get involved in talking with us about a whole bunch of resources and organizations that are involved in recycling throughout the state. So I'm going to begin with some thoughts on reducing. And really, this is the key to any strategy, or the first step in any strategy to reduce or better manage our solid waste, either at the household level or at the community level. Really, it starts with reducing, and as you can see here, we've had a real impact with some excessive levels of consumption with our environment. In Connecticut, the continuing increasing amounts of municipal waste has begun to max out our landfills. It's created some significant environmental and economic challenges at both a community level and a state level. As you can see here, Connecticut still disposes about 2.4 million tons of trash annually. That's an estimated 1,370 pounds of trash per person per year. And that really kind of translates down to about 5 pounds of garbage every day. And you can see the quote here in the middle of the slide that it really is the highest priority in that hierarchy of effective waste management actions. And it's generally acknowledged to have the best benefit from a variety of standpoints, including global warming. If we're consuming less, then we're making less, and that generally tends to have an impact on reducing greenhouse gases, et cetera. It's also challenging. It's one of the most challenging because it does involve changes in the way that we live and the way that we work. But as far as getting involved and practicing waste reduction, it's a simple step of taking on one strategy at a time. And once you've mastered one strategy in your home, then you add more. And as an example, here's a short list. Printing on both sides of the paper, if your printer has that ability. Switching to paperless bills, reducing junk mail, all kinds of things like this. Always reusing reusable coffee mugs and insulated flasks. I've got my flask for my water right beside me here, and it keeps it nice and cold, and it's just less for me to have to throw out. But we've got a lot of simple things that you can start with here, and there will be links in the resources packet that will help you, begin to implement these actions. One of the great resources for learning about waste reduction, where do I start, what resources are available, is the Department of Energy and Environmental Waste Reduction main page. It's a great place to start. The DEEP has done a great job in providing resources for additional citizens, municipalities, businesses, other organizations. They really do a wonderful job. And my recommendation is that this is where you would start. Start with the main page. And again, links to that main page will be provided in the resource packet. But ultimately, this is really about what we can do to change. It's really about making better choices with what we purchase. Here's a couple of examples. Clothing as an example. Patagonia Corporation had an ad out that was rather famous, a famous ad campaign about 4 years ago called "Don't Buy This Jacket." Now, it seems funny that a company that makes its money on making clothing would actually run an ad that says "Don't buy this jacket." But really what they were getting to is, if you're going to buy our products, make sure that you need them and make sure that you're making sensible choices about what you need and what you don't need. They have a Common Threads garment recycling program. And again, links to this will be in that resource page. Another option that you wouldn't normally think of is food choices. And you can make some sustainable food choices. For example, seafood. Select local seafood that is in season. The resource packet, again, is going to have some guidelines about how you do that. As well as some pamphlets about what types of seafood is in season at what particular time. But really, this is about, it starts with choices. And as I mentioned earlier, it starts with taking on the challenge one action at a time. So the second most important strategy is reuse and repair. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Janice. This is an area of expertise for her. And Janice, I'll change slides as you need me to. So we're all set.
Okay. All right. Can you please change the slides?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Reuse. Well, why is reuse important? It's one of the most effective ways to save natural resources, uh, save money, and save our environment. If we don't make these things, we don't have to worry about disposal. We don't have to worry about taking care of the environment with them. If we don't create it in the first place, it's not an issue. So let's reuse products as much as we can. Preserving the embodied energy. The embodied energy is what it takes to make the product. Do you have to do mining to get that oil out of the soil? Do you need to cut down grass to make that flour? Or how do you have to get it? What is the process of getting these materials for the products? So think about that when you're buying something. What does it take to make these things? Where does it come from? Is it local, or does it come from a long ways away that there's a lot of money spent on getting it to us? And then think of how you dispose of it. If it's not recyclable, what happens to it? Does it get burned? Where does it go? Does it go in a landfill, which we really don't have in Connecticut right now? We have a burn plant. So does it go to that burn plant and get burned, or how do we get rid of them? Let's see here. If we save money and purchase things, we can buy used clothing, for instance. Building materials can be purchased that are used. There's places that sell old fireplace mantles. You can get banisters. You can get all these very cool things already made up from another home or from another building that you can reuse. So try to use those kind of things. When you're buying something, think of the full circle of that product. Think of first what it's made out of. And I think of when I want to buy a sweater. What's that sweater going to be made out of? Do I want to buy an acrylic sweater or a wool sweater? Well, where does that acrylic material come from? Fuels. Or where does a wool sweater come from? A goat or a sheep or a rabbit or something like that. So how do you get the material for that product? Does a wool sweater keep going after a lot of washes? Or does the acrylic sweater last longer? How do you repair it if it gets a hole in it? Can you repair things just as easy? And then finally, what happens when it's worn out? What do you do with it? Well, I know that in my kitchen, I have some pot holders that are made out of felted sweaters. So a sweater that's gotten old, a wool sweater that is worn out, and they cut squares out and felted them and sewed them together, and now I have pot holders. So I'm reusing that old sweater into a new use. I even have some gloves that are made out of old sweaters. So there's different things that you can make with products to reuse them. I also have some old wool yarn that I have made into dryer balls. Just by making a ball of yarn with that wool, throwing it in the washing machine, and it felts. And then I can use that in my dryer. Might add a little bit of essential oil to make the whole dryer load smell good. And then I don't have to use any fabric softeners or any of that. That does the job right there. So think of the full process for that. New businesses. Well, gosh, the first ones that come to mind are Goodwill, Salvation Army, huge businesses that reuse products. They have been going a long time. A lot of people get jobs from them. They take in all sorts of products and they're all over the place. They're pretty accessible. We went to, with Connecticut Recyclers Coalition, we went to, I think it was a Goodwill distribution center in New Haven. And it was an amazing process on how they collect, say, their books or their clothing, or what happens when something doesn't sell in a store. It goes into a bin and you eventually can purchase things by weight. They weigh whatever you pick. You can buy a pair of jeans and they weigh it up and it's, I don't know, $3 or whatever. So it keeps going around and around and around, and they use it as much as they can. So that's one way to look at things. Let's see, what else do we have here? Create a new supply of goods. Well, the Goodwill, Salvation Army, furniture reuse places, there's antique shops, there's thrift shops. I know that there's a business in Old Saybrook that sells fire extinguishers, and they also take in old fire extinguishers that can, if they're still good use, they can reuse them and send them out for sale again. So that's reusing those. You can also have a tag sale at your house if you have things to reuse that are perfectly good. People are crazy about coming to tag sales, and it's a good way to get rid of things that you don't want, or go to a tag sale and you can find all sorts of treasures. I believe it's Chester used to have townwide tag sales in the spring, and you would get a map that would show all the different tag sales in the area, and you can go from one to one looking for treasures, and that was really fun to do. Another one of my favorite reuse places is the Book Barn in Niantic. They have tons of books. They categorize them into different authors. They categorize them into subjects. The whole place is decorated with fun things. There's things that kids can do. It's a great place to go. So the Book Barn in Niantic, remember that one. Next page, please. The Deep Reuse main page. Mike already talked about it a little bit. It's a great resource, and they give you all sorts of ideas on how to reuse different things. So that's, I guess you'll get that at the end, the reuse thing. Next page, please. How many choices? Well, we have a lot of choices. Buy durable goods. And durable goods are products that last longer. Some say durable goods are products that last longer than 3 years. They might be a little more expensive, but if they last longer, you probably get your money's worth out of them. They don't quickly wear out. So think of that wool sweater versus the acrylic sweater. And a lot of things can be reused along the way too. Like I was talking about the pot holders or the gloves that can be used out of those wool sweaters. You can also borrow things, which is always a good thing. Hey mom, you know that turkey roasting pan that I don't have and you have? May I borrow that instead of buying a big, huge pan yourself? You can rent or lease things. How often do you really need it? Now, I know my husband says I can't do the job unless I have the right tool. Well, I don't know about that always. You can always rent or lease it. There's a lot of places you can get things from. So think about renting or leasing things. Bartering. it's an old service that used to be, gosh, people used to do it more and more. How can you trade skills for products or vice versa? We have a deal going with the local arborist who cuts trees for firewood. And my husband has worked on his roof to get firewood. So we kind of barter for the firewood. There's different places that you can get info from, like the Free Cycle Network, Craigslist, which are two popular ones. We're talking about the town-wide tag sale that they have in Chester, and I'm sure other towns have that same thing. There's another one that I go on is Nextdoor, and there's local Nextdoor programs. The one I have is for Centerbrook and Ivoryton, and you can go on there and there's all sorts of products that people list. There's services they're asking for. They're even getting into my cat ran away. Has anybody seen my cat? So that Nextdoor is another option. Next slide, please. Composting. One of my favorite things to talk about, composting. Composting is really a simple process. You can do it at home. You can do it town-wide, which we don't have right now happening. There could possibly in the future be a compost container at the transfer station. There are programs that you can compost at your curbside when your garbage gets picked up. We're working on all those different options. But as far as composting at home is a really simple thing to do. It doesn't take a lot. It's pretty basic. To compost, it takes three things: browns, greens, and water. Browns are dead leaves, branches, and twigs, that kind of thing. It's the carbon for your composting. Greens are the nitrogen. It is any kind of green clipping, food waste, vegetables, coffee grounds, all those kind of things. And the mixture you usually have for your compost bin is 2/3 of brown, 1/3 of green, and then keep it moist because all the microbes and all the worms and everything need to have it moist, and it composts much quicker. Different things that you can compost. Think of in your kitchen when you are preparing your meals. You have that apple core, you have the potato skins, you have the coffee grounds. All of those things are perfect compost for your compost bins. Get a container with a lid on it, put it under your sink. And so whenever you have these different things that you're using, your potato peeler or whatever, you're peeling away, put those things in that bin, and then you can bring it out to your compost bin outside. Different things that you can compost are fruits and vegetables, eggshells. I actually like to break my eggshells down a little bit so that they decompose faster. Coffee grounds and coffee filters. I used to have a thing with Dunkin' Donuts when I had a community garden. I had a 5-gallon bucket that I would bring to Dunkin' Donuts. They would fill it up with all their coffee grounds and their filters. I would take it away and give them another 5-gallon bucket. So we just had a return system going on, used all that great coffee grounds. The list goes, it's a good sized list: shredded paper, yard trimmings, grass clippings. If you use yard trimmings and grass clippings from your own yard, think, did I put any chemicals on the lawn? Hopefully not. Then you can use them for your composting. Things that you don't want to put in a compost are dairy products, meat and fish, any kind of plants that have been diseased. You want to get rid of those and not put them in your compost. Fat, grease, lard, those kind of things. Meat or fish bones, anything that would draw critters to your compost bin, you don't want to add. What are the benefits of composting? They enrich the soil. The soil will then hold more moisture. It suppresses plant diseases and pests, reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, and it levels off the pH of your soil, encourages beneficial bacteria and fungus growth, and it reduces methane emissions in the air. Each spring, I empty my compost bin and fill it up into my veggie garden, and makes it very happy. There's different ways you can do composting. You can get just a pile in your backyard, but sometimes you might have curious critters getting into that. You can also buy compost bins. Twice a year in our region, we have a compost bin and rain barrel sale. We've had those in Middletown and then down in Old Saybrook at our Tractor Supply. They're pretty good prices in that we can get them in bulk, and they're just plastic containers that have a lid. You can buy accessories to it. You can buy a bottom if you don't want, say, mice in it, but really it's a plastic covered bin that animals can't get into, that you can put your compost out in your yard. Pick a place in your yard that is not always in the sun, partially shaded, somewhere that's close to water, because you have to keep the compost damp. And where you'd be laying your greens and browns, add a little water if you need to. You might need to stir it up once or twice through the season, but it really takes a tiny bit of effort to do composting. Seed saving is another thing to reuse. Seed saving is, you grow your tomatoes. They're beautiful tomatoes. They taste great. Save some of those seeds. We have had seed saving at some of the libraries where people have saved their favorite tomato seeds, and you can share them with other people, share them back and forth. Vermicomposting is using worms for composting, and that can be done inside. Kids love doing this because it's a small, compact thing, and worms are always great with kids. You usually get a plastic container, a small plastic container, probably a couple gallons worth of a container that has a lid, tight fitting lid, drill holes into it. You would add, a pound or so of soil that has good microbes. It has fungus already. And you buy red wiggler worms, which are special worms. They're not just our garden worms. You start layering in shredded newspaper, add a little food that you would be putting in your compost bin, and you've got a vermicomposting bin right there. Usually feed them once a week. They're easy to do. It's fun to do. Another composting thing is there is a master composting program that Yukon Extension has, kind of like master gardening. The class involves learning all about what composting is, how to do it, how to look for problems. We take great field trips to learn about big processing, composting areas, what some different farms have done on them. And you also make a worm bin. So you get kind of the full thing for composting. The program also involves a lot of, at the end, you give back to the community. So you volunteer to give back information about composting. I always have volunteers at my compost bin and rain barrel sales to help, and they're usually master composters to come and help with that. So vermicomposting, that's what that is. Mending your clothes. Well, taking care of a product that you already like. If you lose a button, put another one back on. If you have a rip on the sleeve, you can sew it by hand. There's always things you can do to mend whatever you have. Donations, we talked about Goodwill and Salvation Army, those kind of things. There's also some local things. Simply Sharing is a local furniture, kind of household products. This woman has a warehouse where she takes them in and gives them to needy people that can't afford to buy them. So it's a really great way to get rid of furniture, household products that you have. And for somebody that's moving into a house that can't afford to buy everything. Lions Club always takes eyeglasses, food, you can bring it to shelters. And there's a link for military options, Save a Suit. Donation guide is also included here. And Bikes for Kids is a group in Essex that takes old bikes. The transfer station usually gets a lot of old bikes. When you grow out of them, they take them, they fix them all up with the help of volunteers and get them to people that don't have bikes, kids, whomever. So that's a great organization right in our town in Essex. Next slide, please.
Bear with me. All right, there we go.
Repair It. All righty. We have had in our communities repair cafes. We've had them in Middletown and Old Saybrook. And a repair cafe is, we usually have them Sunday afternoons, where I've organized different people who are fixer, I guess, people, repair people. Somebody that knows something about motors, somebody that has a sewing machine and that knows how to sew things, somebody that can fix an electrical appliance. There have been people that have been there to fix cell phones or computers. Another favorite is a knife sharpening, a sharpener. So I get people who can fix things. We advertise it. They have the day of the event and people come in with all sorts of items. We've had people that came in that had a toaster oven that didn't work. We've had people that brought their kids' bikes in that weren't working for different reasons. I've sewn on a sleeve. Oh, a little girl had her favorite pants that were ripped, so I fixed those. There's all sorts of things that you can do to repair things. The knife sharpening, again, was one of the favorites. You can bring in your old clippers that get worn out. You can bring in your kitchen knife that needs to be fixed, or your kitchen scissors, whatever, to get those sharpened. We haven't had Repair Cafe this year. Hopefully we'll be able to start them up again. So stay tuned. I'm sure it will be on the Sustainable Essex site when we have them going again. So repair cafes are a fun thing to do. You can organize them yourself even. Get a group of friends to get going on it, and it's a fun event. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move into recycling, and Pam, we'll turn to you and your expertise on recycling in Connecticut.
Hey, hi everybody. You can hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, great. So yeah, recycle what we cannot use. There's a nice little quote there that you can go back and look at. Thanks, Mike.
Sorry.
The next slide. No, it's okay. Next slide. So as Mike mentioned, state of Connecticut DEEP has resources on their homepage that can help you learn the importance of reducing, reusing, recycling. They have frequently asked questions on that website, links for buying recycled, Connecticut bottle bill information, household hazardous waste, paint, electronics, anything, you know, any information that you're looking for, you can find there, and lots of links. By the way, for those of you who do not know this, every Connecticut resident is required by state law to recycle, and each town is required to provide recycling options to their residents. So just so you know that. If you go to recyclect.com, great little site, you can find out if an item is recyclable by typing in the name of a waste in the recycling wizard search bar. And then, for example, if you type in takeout container, it'll have different options there. So if it says cardboard takeout container, it will say, put this item in your trash. If you say plastic takeout container, it will say, put this item in your recycling. So it's very helpful. You can put anything in there you want. You put in electronics or mattresses, it may tell you to contact your local recycling coordinator. Most towns have electronics and mattress collections at their transfer stations, or they'll schedule events for electronics recycling or mattress recycling in towns, or regional events usually. Several towns can go to those. And then there's more educational resources at the recollect.net site. And Mike's going to have all these links for you on a resource page, so you don't have to try to write all this stuff down. Next slide. So one of the biggest challenges in Connecticut, or biggest challenges in recycling, is wishful recycling. It's when people toss items into the recycling bin that they hope are recyclable without knowing if they actually are. And we want to avoid wishful recycling because these unacceptable items, they take a labor-intensive detour through recycling facilities, and they end up being disposed of in the regular trash anyhow. The resource tab on the Recycle-CT website has a what's in, what's out guide to recycling that we're going to show you on the next slide. That's actually, you can go to the next slide, I guess, Mike. And this can be downloaded in English and in Spanish. And it has, it's also available on many municipal websites. Most towns will have a link on their website for residents to be able to click on, including the Town of Essex website has it on there if you're from Essex. So it's a universal list of what's acceptable recycling in Connecticut, in all of Connecticut. It was created to increase participation and decrease contamination because there was a lot of confusion as to, you know, oh, this is acceptable in your town, but it's not in mine, and so forth. So one of the first and foremost things you should remember is to empty and rinse your food and beverage containers. Always empty, rinse, clean, leave them open. Don't shred, box, bag, or bundle them. So basic recycling, I won't go through all this because it's all listed there for you, but you're going to recycle your paper and cardboard. You're going to recycle your metal, glass, and plastic food and beverage containers. So keep that in mind. It's food and beverage containers, including black plastic containers. Also, nursery pots and planter pots are also acceptable. I know those aren't food and beverage, but they are recyclable. So there are some exceptions. But if you look through this list, I think it'll be very helpful to you. So like the plastic bags and the plastic film and shredded paper, don't put that in because it gets all wrapped up into the equipment at the recycling center. So that's something you don't want to do. And the styrofoam, I know that seems like plastic, but because it has a triangle on it too, but it's not recyclable in Connecticut. We don't have outlets for that. Some states have it, but not us. So remember when you're recycling, so for your newspaper, make sure you take the plastic bag off of it. If you're recycling cereal, pasta boxes, cereal boxes, cracker boxes, remove the plastic sleeve and the plastic bag and sleeve out of it. And pizza boxes, no pizza, and remove the food and liners out of it. Okay, you know, like if there's something stuck to the bottom, I usually just scrape it off, you know, and I dump out the crumbs, you know. So, but pizza boxes is new on the list with this guide. I was very excited that pizza boxes got added right after they got added, and I announced that to my family. We happened to have well, this is way before COVID, obviously. We had a bunch of kids at the house, and my son, who's, you know, older teenager at the time, lifted up like 5 pizza boxes and said, "Pizza boxes are recyclable," and went out into the garage and put them into the recycling bin. He announced it to everybody. It's very funny. It was exciting because I was happy they were recyclable, because I always used to rip off the clean side, but it all go in now. Even it has, you know, stained grease there. So next slide. This is a really great website. What do I do with? And it's a residence management guide to those not so common household items you wonder what to do with. And it lists ways to use or recycle items. It recommends, you know, as Jez went through, fix it, give it away, donate it, sell it. Janice mentioned tag sales. That book barn in Niantic is awesome, by the way. I've been there, has whole big outside area and inside area. We had so much fun in that place. You could spend like a half a day there, and you can bring your books to donate too. It's really, really fun. And, you know, I know it's corny, but one person's trash is another person's treasure. It is so true. So I would recommend, for example, I'd recommend you check out the textile link that brings you to the Deep Textile Reuse and Recycling website. So under this, what do I do with it? There's a link there for textiles. That's a very good good information on that link there on the Deep website. And to stop your junk mail, you go to ecocycle.org/junk mail, and then you can put in your information there. And you know, it may take a little time before it stops coming, but at least you're not going to get. That's all I get in the mail. It seems, junk mail and of course bills. But and then you could also get your bills. You don't have to get paper bills anymore. We all know that. Next slide. Okay, so this number really surprised me. 85% of textiles are discarded. People do not donate them, give them away, or they just throw them out. I know someone that, you know, the button came off their shirt and they just threw the whole shirt out. So threw it out. Oh, and so here's an example. I will not throw this out because I love it. Do you see this? Can you see this? There's a hole here because I was at a fire, outdoor fire. Can you see that? No.
I don't think we can, Pam.
I can't get it in the thing. Anyway, there's a hole in this nice jacket here, and I won't get rid of it. I'm going to put a felt patch on it because I like it too much. I have other jackets I could wear, but I like that one. So 85% of textiles are just thrown out, and 2.2 pounds of fabric creates 50 pounds of greenhouse gases. That's a huge number. And 190,000 tons of textile, of textiles, the microplastic fibers end up in the ocean every year. So these are huge numbers. So we should, we should give away whatever we can. It doesn't matter if it has holes in it or a stain or it's ripped. These boxes at your recycling center and your transfer stations, they do take them. Okay, so they do take them as long as it's not oil soaked or stained, or oil soaked or wet or moldy. They don't want that. But there's a hole or rip in it, they take them. So there's another program in the state called Simple Recycling. 29 Connecticut towns have launched this program, and it's where residents can put their textiles out of the curb in a pink bag on their recycling day. And the next slide, please. This program does not compete with the drop-off programs. It's designed to collect textiles that would otherwise be thrown into the trash, that 85%. People who donate textiles to charities often do so because they believe in the charity or they want the tax deduction. So that's not going to change. This program is designed to nudge the majority of people who would recycle textiles if only it were more convenient. What's more convenient than putting in a pink bag and putting it out at your curb with your recycling, right? So, and remember, textile recycling is more than just clothes. It includes bedding and backpacks and curtains and towels and stuffed animals and gloves, belts, ties, purses, handbags, shoes, slippers, more, right? All that kind of stuff. So this program, this curbside program, has been suspended for several months during COVID. They've since resumed operations for most of their current customers after vaccine is issued and everything gets back to normal. Simple Recycling would be a great program to consider in your town. In the Scrog region, 5 of our towns have signed on to the program and are currently being serviced. 2 more have signed on and are waiting to launch because they can't launch yet until everything gets back a little more to normal. Because the thrift stores are open, but they're not open to full capacity, so they don't have enough outlets right now. People are going in shopping, but not as many, and can't try things on. So business is not up to normal yet. And two other towns in our area are considering it as well. So I think that would be really great if you wanted to be, encourage your town or your local COG, Janice, to get that started with certain towns in the area. That'd be great. Next. Household hazardous waste programs are okay. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming most of you know that there's a household hazardous waste collections in your area. In the COG region, Janice, you can correct me, but I know that things changed this year with COVID, but usually around once a month seasonally, May through September or October, and in the Essex Has Waste Center or on Dump Road, or others are scheduled all around, different towns around the region, right? And then in New Haven, there's Has Waste Central that's open to 16 municipalities in New Haven County. And that's open seasonally on Saturdays, 9 to noon from mid-May through October. And these are items that are under your kitchen and bathroom sink, in your garage, pesticides, gas, oil, antifreeze, paint. There's lots of different long list of items that you can see on at Has Waste Central website, Has Waste Central CT. You could put in on that website, and I'm sure RiverCog, I'm sure you have it on your website as too, Janice. The listing of acceptable items. It's really important that does not go be put in the regular trash, because it's it causes lots of problems with it can be explosions, and the people picking up the trash have I forget what the percentage is, certain number of percentage of people, 3, 5, 7% of workers get injured because of hazardous waste in the trash, and really needs to be disposed of properly. So yeah, so let's see, next page, next slide, I guess, please. Okay, so this I wanted to let you know about because this is a statewide effort right now, and I want to let you know because you can be involved in this a little bit. So the Connecticut's Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management, it's called CCSMM. It's being led by Commissioner Katie Dykes, Deep Commissioner Katie Dykes, and over 70 municipalities in Deep have joined together, and we're exploring ways to reduce the amount of waste that's generated in Connecticut, to improve reuse, recycling, organics, and other innovative solutions. So it's been created because towns are faced with pressing challenges, right? The increased costs of single stream recycling right now, the challenge of organics recycling. Janice was talking about the different options that we're looking to see how we can collect organics, either curbside or regionally, or community composting, or backyard composting is the easiest. Educating residents, recycling right, reducing waste, reducing costs. So initially, you can help by recycling right, and by diverting your food waste via a backyard composter if you can. 40%, you can see here, 40% of the waste stream is recycling, and 22% are food scraps. So that would be, 62% of your waste stream. You would hardly have anything left in your garbage. So that, and then if you gave things away too, right, and donated what you can, that would even increase it more. And it's interesting because I was talking to a family member, and she was saying, well, I eat my food. I don't throw my food out. I eat all of it. Okay, but do you eat your banana peels and your orange peels? And butternut squash, do you have that? Do you eat that whole thing? Egg and peanut shell, stalks, stems, vines. It's funny. So people don't think about it wholly, So if you want to join and learn more about this, the statewide effort here, you can join CCSMM's working group meetings. The webinars are open online and open to the public. Presentations are posted on the website. You can go right there at the bottom of the page. There's that link there. And I think, Mike, not sure if that's in your resources, but I think you're sharing the slides too, right? So so you can get that link there and go on, and it's got so much information. You'll see all the presentations, and the working groups are going to conclude on January 1st, and they'll have a menu of options at that point and report on progress and best practices, and hopefully we can move forward on some of these recommendations that come out of these working groups. So I wanted to mention paintcare.org. We have the extended producer responsibilities, number 4 here, one of the working groups. I want to mention that because in addition to bringing paint to your household hazardous waste collection programs, you can also go to your local hardware stores. If you go to paintcare.org, just type in your zip code and it'll list for you all the places that are closest to you. And you can get rid of your paint, 10 gallons at a time. I think most local hardware stores take them 10 gallons at a time, all throughout the year. So you don't have to wait for the seasonal program to be able to dispose of that. And extended producer responsibilities when the producers have responsibility for paying for the end of life of these products. So so that's the case with electronics, mattresses, and paint. We established all those 3 programs in the state of Connecticut for that, and looking to add on more. So maybe tires, propane tanks, hazardous waste, packaging would be huge. It would save this saves the towns a lot of money. $8 million in mattresses were saved through the program for the towns in the state of Connecticut. 4.3 million for paint. Packaging would be 30 to 40 million dollars in savings if we did that. So that would be another producer responsibility program that we can maybe add. So yeah. So next slide. This is my favorite slide. So we always say reduce, reuse, recycle, right? But there's actually 8 R's. Okay. So refuse. So don't consume what you don't need to. Reduce, reuse, repair. Learned all about that from Janice. Regift, recover, recycle, and rethink. Most importantly, be mindful with our consumption. So I think that's I think that's really something to think about. I like the 8 R's versus the 3. And it's interesting, Janice, you were saying about borrowing and Thanksgiving. My sister-in-law and I we would always, every other Thanksgiving, I would have it that she'd have it next year kind of thing. And we would trade off on Thanksgiving themed salt and pepper shakers and plates and things like that. We would just hand it off every Thanksgiving to the person that was having it the next year. So why do we want to double up on that, right? And then just, I borrow my friend's tent all the time, and I borrowed we also, other things we kind of toss back and forth, whether it's cheesecake pan or something like that. Just, my friend has a key to my house, just go right in and get it, So yeah, awesome. And the other thing I thought of, and then we can go to questions. Oh, we're running a little late. Mugs and takeout containers. I'm hoping that we get to the point, and I know this came up in one of the working group meetings, of bringing, when you go to a store or a restaurant, take out fast food or not, or otherwise, or Starbucks, you bring your mug and you have them fill that. I think that's happening some now, but also for when you bring your own takeout container, say, here, put my food in this, my sandwich, my to-go, whatever you're getting, and go home with, bring it home with that. That would be great if we can get to that point. Okay, next slide. I think that's the end, right? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll go to your questions that are in chat. So bear with me for a moment.
Thanks for
first,
listening,
I want to
everybody.
say to Janice and Pam, thanks so much for your participation with this. Your expertise has been invaluable. We've worked really hard on this presentation. There's a ton of great resources that are out there. And at this point, let me see what we've got in there for chat. Bear with me here. Okay. Okay. Let me go to the top.
I want to show this to
When we're talking about, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I really want to show you the whole of my shirt. See?
There you go.
and it's really nice shirt. It's like it's got, it's a memory. So I like it. It's a nice little sweatshirt. So why do I want to throw this away?
Right.
Anyway.
All
sorry.
Right. We were talking about other resources for selling or bartering or sharing. Christine and Pam both put some additional thoughts out there. So there is a Buy Nothing Facebook page that you can search for on Facebook. Save that as a favorite. And also Facebook Marketplace. Pam, you had brought that up, and that's I had completely forgotten about that. That's a great resource. Here's a question from Amy. Is there a cost to the town for simple recycling? And Pam, I think I'll
no,
pass that
sorry,
to you.
I didn't get into that. I'm so sorry. Amy, no, how you doing, Amy? There's no cost. It is free to the town. In fact, you'll get a $20 per ton rebate, sometimes 40, depending on how the program is set up. So the town will actually make money on it. And Simple Recycling will hand out cards, like a little index card kind of size, along with the pink bag to every resident. So they'll mail those out to every resident. They'll distribute it. They have to get the list from you of addresses, and then it'll tell you on the card what can go into that bag. And it's a lot of household goods too. It's a really great list. If you go to Simple Recycling, if you Google that, it'll be you can see the type of things that they accept, because it's not just textiles either. And so after they distribute the bags and the cards, they'll go around the town on the town's recycling day, So it works best when it's one hauler for the town because then it's one recycling route. But it can be done with private haulers as well. That's when they would have a tablet in their car and they would have to just, that's when you get $40 a ton, by the way. When haulers have to have a tablet in their car, they just tap it when they see a pink bag and then the town gets $40 a ton and then Simple just goes around the town to those sites there. But it's a great program because it's so convenient, you know. It's just, I remember getting a bag one day. I don't Goodwill was giving out bags, and I get this bag and I filled it. It's automatic. You just fill it because you have it. And I'm like, oh, okay, here you go. You know, nice and easy. But yeah, it's free. It's really a win-win for the towns. Hamden, North Haven, North Branford, Milford, and Orange are the 5 towns in the area here that are already running it. And a couple of others, I think was on my slide. There's a couple others. West Haven, I think. Not West Haven, East Haven, I forget now. But there's a couple, a few other towns that want to join too. So yeah,
Okay.
free.
Carol's got a great question. I'm sure this is one that all of us have asked at some point. Why are takeout containers and prescription bottles not recyclable, even if they have the appropriate recycling marks?
So the takeout containers, the plastic ones are recyclable. It's the cardboard and the styrofoam that are not. Cardboard, because that cardboard, it's not the right type of cardboard that you normally recycle. There's usually a film on it and it's stained, so that cannot be recyclable. Even though like pizza boxes can. I'm a little confused about the cardboard takeout containers, why they're saying no. In my mind, I think it would be a yes, but it's a no. And the styrofoam, definitely not. There's not an outlet for styrofoam. It's definitely garbage. And what was the other thing you mentioned?
Prescription bottles.
Prescription bottles, because they're too tiny. I think, what is it, 2x2? Janice, do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. If
it
doesn't
falls
go
through and makes a mess
Yeah.
of things. So it has to
Yeah, I
be a
think
decent size.
that's what it is. Yeah, there's a measurement. I can't remember what it is. So, but
Okay.
yeah, I think it's a large one. If you have a large vitamin bottle, it's probably good. But it's tiny little prescription bottles.
Okay.
No.
I don't want to put
Yeah.
anybody on the spot, but do either of you know whether or not like local pharmacies have some kind of a program to take those back? Have you heard anything about that at all?
Not
I'm not.
empty. No, not
Okay.
empties. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then continuing with another point made by Carol, animal shelters need towels, blankets, rags
Yeah.
for cleaning, and fur coats for abandoning kittens. So just a reminder from Carol that
Yes.
there's another option to share your textiles.
Yeah,
Thank
our bad for not remembering that one. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
saying
that's a
that.
great point.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
point. Good idea.
As I hang out with my cat and my dog here during COVID all the time, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Question from Francis, and I'll read through this. Mixed stream recycling doesn't work now that China has stopped taking our waste. Is it worth the obligation of working with our towns to create more valuable streams by separating glass, cardboard, and cans? The town could get a share of the profit and stop using landfills. In other words, is a local solution better than waiting for a state answer?
Francis, is that who it was from Francis?
Yes.
You've got to go on to the CCSMM
I was thinking the-
website, join the different calls, because that's exactly what we're talking about now with all those
Yeah.
things. What can be done? What are some easy answers? What are things that are down the road that like a factory has to be made? But all of those kind of things we're discussing right now. So join those calls and help
Everything,
with
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'll
everything is on the table.
make sure
everything is
that
on the table.
CCSMM website link is in the resources
Resources.
packet. I'll double check that at the end, and I should be able to get that packet out to all of you, if not today, certainly probably midday tomorrow. Couple of other questions. Also from Carol, a point being made here, 40 million mattresses are dumped every year, but their parts are recyclable. I'm taking apart a box spring now and using the foam for pillows, the cover as a protective material for things I'm storing, and recycling the springs in the metal bin at Essex Transfer. Essex Transfer has a bin for all textiles, including belts and pocketbooks. So a good reminder there from from Carol about how to break down that mattress even more.
Yeah,
To enhance
that's
its overall
excellent.
recycling.
Yeah, that's excellent. And also Carol and everyone else, so you know, the mattress recycling program, that's exactly what they do. They recycle every piece of the mattress. So you don't have to do that yourself. It's great that you are, and especially since you're using the pieces, but you don't have to do that. That's you can bring it right to the mattress container at your transfer station or to an event if you can get it there. Yeah.
A question from Diane Fisk. How do we encourage our town to do the simple recycling program? I think Pamela or Janice, you touched on this a little bit, but could you elaborate a little?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk, Kristen Brown, and again, right now they're on hold. So you know, wait till COVID, you know, subsides a bit. But Kristen Brown would be the contact there, and I can share that. We can share that with you to talk to her. They're the ones that run the program, and can talk to your town. They'll come and speak, you know, to a town at a town meeting too. Absolutely, yeah.
We have had Kristen come to some different towns in our regions.
Mhm.
And I think it takes a lot of education for residents to know what it's all about, because none of our towns have signed up for it yet.
Mhm.
So we need help. We need education. We need getting that info out to residents before everybody agrees that it can happen.
Yeah, so so what happened in our towns, Janice, is the Kristen went and spoke to the town, or somebody from Simple Recycling spoke to the council, and then the town pushed out information on social media and local papers. Milford did a phenomenal job with that. Hamden tried, but they didn't do as good of a job. They're still doing well, but their Milford's numbers and weight was like double double the amount that Hamden was bringing in. So it has to do with the social media and getting the information out there. And again, they get the card. Listen to me selling it. It's like I work there. They get the card and the pink bag, you know, because I love the program. That's why the Simple Recycling does some of the marketing for you, because they give every resident a bag and a card, and the card tells you what can go into the bag. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's best, rather than listening to me, you know, rattle off here, to go directly to them. And I can
What
give
I'll
you
do is,
Kristen's. Yeah.
I'll make sure that we get the links for Simple Recycling and the contact information into the resource sheet. And then Janice and Pam, what I'll do is I'll reach out to you offline. That may be a great opportunity for a standalone seed session where we're just talking about that program and basically the steps that are involved in a community enrolling in that program. So more to come on that, but Diane, we appreciate your and everyone else's interest in this program. It's certainly a great opportunity, and we'll see what we can do to help you get things going in your town. Here's just a reminder from Kara. Suffolk County on Long Island banned styrofoam takeout. I did see that myself online, and great news there. So just a reminder about that. If it can be done out there, it can be done anywhere. Question or comment from Carol again. I live in a 40-unit condo community and place signs on the recycling bins that I can change regularly that indicate what can be recycled, or now what can't be recycled. That boxes must be cut to 3x5 or 3x3 flyers from the town of Essex about what can and can't be recycled, etc. I found people do not respond to mailers or emails that tell them what to do. It's important to put it on the bins. Great point.
Absolutely.
Yep, and I want to echo Pam, a point you made earlier with what's in and what's out. A lot of municipalities have put right on their municipal homepage, right on the homepage itself, a search box which is kind of tied into the what's on, what's out information system, and you type in a particular type of material and it tells you whether or not it's in or it's out. So but to your point, we'll take a look at how Sustainable Essex can support you know, working with the town to get better information out there, or information in a variety of different ways so that people can use it. Great point.
Mike, sometimes in a multifamily apartment complex, or an apartment complex or condos, set of condos, Association. They will, in addition to having signs on the actual container dumpsters, they'll have signs on the bulletin board. They'll distribute, what's in, what's in, without flyer
Right.
to all of the apartment owners. They can email it now rather than paper too. I'm sure they have everyone's email. So that's really, it's you know how it is. It's a process. You have to hear things 10 times before you get it,
Right.
right? And it is some of the what's in, what's out is confusing, like to people. I mean, we're so used to it. We live it, right, Janice? So we live it.
Right.
It's easy to us, right? And my kids, I will tell you, that's not really me bashing. I really didn't bug them about that. They bugged me more. They brought back a recyclable drink bottle from Puerto Rico on the plane. It was empty. They wouldn't throw it out. They brought it home on the plane.
Damn, good for them.
I'm like, okay, all right. You can't say I'd be that good, but yeah.
Nice.
So
All
yeah.
right.
So it's just what you get used to. It's what you live. And what you include in your life. But it's easy. It's an easy thing to do to help right now during COVID. This is what we can do. Right. Let's focus on what we can do. People are now gardening in their yards. They're growing their own gardening. They started backyard composting. We're home more. Right. I mean, it makes us feel good to do what we can do. Right. If we know that we're recycling and we're helping in some way with the environment, with the whole world really, with the environment, and it's nice. It's good. And if you're
Recycle
sharing with people,
CT. Oh, sorry, Pam.
yeah, go ahead. I'll keep battling. Go ahead.
The Recycle CT website has posters already made that
Yes.
explain what's in, what's out. So you just have to go on to the Recycle CT website and it's all right there. They're already made up. Just print them off and slap them up.
And then in English
Right.
and Spanish. If you didn't hear me say
Right.
that earlier, they're also in
Yes.
Spanish. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So
We've got a lot of chat here. I know we're going a little bit over time, but why don't we leave it like this? I'm going to stay online for those who want. There's a lot of additional questions and points being made. Those of you who have to drop off, we'll do our best to address every question in chat directly with follow-up communication. And again, don't forget that we'll be sending the presentation out to you. We'll also make available the link to this recorded session. So we'll keep going, but we do understand we're respectful of people's time. We do understand if you have to drop off. And in the interim, I'll keep working through some of the questions we're getting in chat. And to that effect, Kara again did also mention that Suffolk County also banned the sale of styrofoam plates, cups, bowls, packing peanuts, all that stuff. So they've really moved in a very aggressive way toward this styrofoam type of plastic material. And they're going about it from the standpoint of consumption. They're simply not making it available any longer. So interesting point there. Pam, I see that you dropped in the simple recycling link there. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Carol Harper has advised us that she's a transitional move manager, which means that she helps people downsize. And in that work, she has recycled over 50 homes full of stuff from every part of their home
That's great.
and property,
That's awesome.
etc. So,
Wow.
donating all of it, and even finding museums to take appropriate items. So, yeah, if you're thinking about downsizing, if you go online, there's a ton of resources about how you do that. And a lot of people in the baby boomer generation, old guys like me, we're starting to think about that kind of stuff, and it's amazing what's out there.
And I'm thinking of downsizing. For my mom's stuff, I think it was a veterans group. They came right to our house and we had a pile of things that we wanted to have reused. They came right in, took the whole thing. You don't even have to bring them anywhere. So there's places that will come to your house to take whatever you have to get reused to, which
Yeah.
can't be
Salvation Army, too.
easier than that.
Yeah. Salvation Army too, I think, does that, don't they?
Oh, do they come? Okay, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think so. I don't know. It's so there's that in the resources. I think, Mike, you have that in the resources. Do you have the New Haven County, the one that came down from Cheryl Baldwin, the donation guide?
Yeah, that's actually in the resource. It's an
Okay.
embedded document within the
Okay.
resources guide. All they'll need
Okay.
to do is click on it and that entire PDF will open up.
Okay, so that's for New Haven County, which is not maybe where any of you live or most of you live. But if you look at that donation guide, it may give you ideas of similar places to look for in your region or your town. You know, so
Yeah.
it could be
Yeah,
a church or whatever. Yeah. So
Cheryl did
just
mention that, Pam, that she felt that that was good for basically most of the state. So
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it is.
good,
Okay.
really good comprehensive resource.
It really is very, very. It's where do you see it?
Um,
Take a look at it. It's
yeah.
important. It's worth taking a look at. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Carol also expressed, with regard to move management, this, a concern that a lot of organizers and movers, correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, may not be aware of what truly is recyclable and what is not. You're nodding your head there. So, Carol, if you'll send an email to the Sustainable Connecticut website, I'm sorry, email site, if there's a way that we can help increase that awareness, we'd love to participate where we can. And I will make sure that in fact, I know it is the Sustainable CT, I'm sorry, the Sustainable Essex email link is going to be on that resource guide. So if you think of it when you get it, yeah, if you could send us an email, how we work with folks that are involved in that industry, that's a good point, and there's a lot of it happening. Okay, that seems to be the end of the chat questions and comments that I see. If there's nothing else, I want to thank all of you for your participation. This is some of the best chat conversation we've had since we started back, the end of February. I also, again, want to thank Janice and Pam for their undying patience with me and their expertise and all that they've done for the state and for our communities. It's been wonderful to work with them. Be on the lookout again for that resource packet that'll be going out pretty quickly. Also, there'll be the presentation and links to the recorded session. So with that, if there are no other questions in chat, I'm going to say thanks to all of you again for your participation. Have a wonderful day. Stay warm. Winter appears to be coming. Looking at the forecast. So the 70-degree November days, I think, are waning. So that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. So thanks again to all of you. Appreciate it. And have a good rest of the afternoon, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks
Thank
for everything
you.
that you do.
Thank you. You're
Carol,
welcome.
thanks for your clapping. Thank you, Carol. I see you
Thanks,
there.
Carol.
Janice, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.